Hey guys, this is Lana from Truth and Transparency, and this is the official launch of the merch line. Check it out. Tell me what you guys think. I'm going to be doing a fan community post once a week. If you happen to buy merchandise, take a picture with your merchandise on or in your hand, send it on in via email to lana@fightforafamily.com. I will then be uploading those on the community page. But check it out. The new merch line is officially launched. There it is, your official Snapbacks and Facts trucker hat. It's in navy blue with white. Writing is in white outlined in red. You know, red, white, and blue. I mean, you can't go wrong with a classic beanie, right? It's wintertime. So get your Truth and Transparency embroidered beanie. White, gray. Also, for the first month, don't forget to take advantage of that early bird user promo code when you check out. Here it is, Lana's Live Classic Hoodie. You guys know I love a good hoodie. And right here, you can wear a hoodie when I go live. Or when, you go to bed. I love hoodies. Home Team Productions written on the back. Again, you can find this classic hoodie, Lana's Live Classic Hoodie, in white, black, or gray. And it features the Home Team Productions on the back. As far as those sizes, we got you covered. Maybe that 4XLT might be out of stock, but all those sizes to choose from. Again, here is my favorite, the black on black classic hoodie. And then finally, ladies, we got it in 2 colors. This is the Home Team crop hoodie. It's a all white out hoodie with the Home Team Productions in a lighter gray. Nothing is on the back. And then it is also in black. Ladies, I got you covered. Home Team crop hoodie. Get your body ready for your next Home Team Productions hoodie. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. Don't forget, use your early bird promo code for that 10% off. It is good for the next month. Merch is launched, guys. Remember to email lana@fightforafamily.com to submit your picture with your favorite gear to go up on the community tab, as well as to be featured on a credit reel.
Have you guys ruled out the possibility that the killer might be a female?
So we look at every avenue. We're looking at every group of people.
Police really didn't answer that. It didn't seem to me, anyway, that it really occurred to them. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But I'm joined now by former Louisiana homicide detective Rodney Demery, who now hosts the podcast Murder Chose Me. Rod, you think this killer might, in fact, be a woman? When the odds are completely stacked against that theory, why do you think that?
Hi, Ashley. Thanks for having me. It's very likely it could be a female. The type of crime, I think the thought is that it's a mass murder, maybe some sort of serial killer, but the reality is it sounds like a passionate crime to me. I think it was someone that had a rage, a certain passion to create such violence. The wrong assumption is that could be a male. More than likely it's a female or a same-sex type relationship or something along those lines.
You think a lot of women get away with murder? Because, just like me, I usually think it's a man, and so do authorities.
Yeah, I think women, not necessarily do they get away with it, but I think it's probably a delay, because the first thought or the first assumption is a male, and that suspect can actually avoid detection for quite a while.
Rod, one of the things I've been noticing, and of course, look, it's the age of social media, and girls in college are all over social media, and these girls had so much social media. They're beautiful. They've got beautiful vehicles. Kaylee bought a Range Rover. She was expecting to start a new job, in the new year. Do you think there's a potential for jealousies because of this? And that's maybe why police should be looking towards other women who see these lives that they think are so much better than theirs?
I think that's a real possibility. Social media obviously creates some sort of violence, but I think it's more likely a relationship type crime. And I think the police probably have pretty good indication who it is. I just think they're not speaking about it.
It's just the boogeyman. It's just the Jeffrey Dahmers of the world. It's just the Ted Bundy. What do you think of that?
I would say probably not. It's definitely someone that they're close hitters.
I'll submit my DNA. It's not me. You know what I mean? Or did they have more? Meaning more video. And that's exactly what the police had. We didn't have that as the public or web sleuths. So you release the video of them walking down from the corner club with Jack Showalter, then he is not labeled as this creepy dude who is stalking. And why they didn't do that, you'd have to ask Moscow Police Department. So Jack gets marked off, not right away, but it'll come out down the road that as soon as that video surfaces of him with the girls walking down from the corner club, yeah, he's, no more on the radar of anybody. Question is when did they get that video? How long did the families have that, know about that video, meaning the Gonzalez's, or did the Chapin see it? Did the Canuto, Maddie's folks? But all of that just comes out as when did, you have it, because you want help from the public. You want to release information when you see the public going the wrong way. You kind of release information that's not, But we're just supposed to take it as, hey, this guy isn't involved. And then one of the family members comes out and says, how are you clearing these people? How are you clearing people too soon? Well, who did they really mean? Were they even talking about Jack John Showalter? Because that's when I realized, when they started saying that people were getting cleared too soon, you just have to look at who's being cleared. And that's when all eyes went on to switching from Jack Showalter, because there was like a week for me doing that, to then, okay, I want to go look at the roommates. And that's actually where episode 2 picks up, is breaking down everything to do with the roommates and the relationships. December 5th, 2022, I posted a video, and it was based off of the investigation that I was doing. And I didn't believe that Jack John Showalter was cleared, because I believe that the cops were going the route of, quote unquote, telling people that they are cleared to give them a false sense of security. And actually, I wasn't wrong. That's exactly what Moscow was doing. This would actually be the case, because that's what they kind of did with the White Elantra. They were actually looking for the White Elantra way before, obviously, we were. So I did the same thing, though, only for Jack Showalter. I mapped out his way home to his parents' house. So the mythology of what the cops were doing and what I was doing was actually the same. Authorities have said that the murders occurred after 3 a.m., but before 4 a.m. So they've been saying 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. is when the murders occurred. Where are they getting this information from? Why do they believe it?
Cause you know we're about to rip shit up. Give me the microphone first so I can bust like a bubble.
If they are correct, the killer left at 4 a.m. from 1122 King Road, all bloody. What Truth and Transparency believes is in camo gear to make it seem like animal blood if stopped by authorities while driving. Again, this is part of TNT's investigation, as to what they were wearing and how to explain it to others if seen. Again, hunting gear. If the person of interest is John Jack Showalter, and if he fled to his parents, here is the quickest route. "297 miles, 5 hours and 43 minutes. So leaving Moscow, Idaho would mean that you are leaving at 4 a.m. West Coast Pacific time zone. So when you arrive actually in Boise, Idaho, you would actually add an hour because they are in Mountain time zone. So without a stop, John Jack would arrive at 10:43 a.m. But if you stop, which I believe you would have to unless he had a full tank of gas, he would arrive around 11 a.m. Boise, Idaho time. Again, Moscow would have been 10 a.m. Again, because you have to add that extra hour because of the time change. But also I'm adding on 15. Now, let's take a look at the possible stops along the way and what time these gas stations in each of these areas should be checking their cameras and also their credit card receipts. Again, so please share this information and get this out to gas station clerks. Okay, again, attention all gas stations that would be in the following areas. And this is the quickest path from Moscow to Boise, the outskirts where his parents' residence is. All right, again, guys, welcome to Truth and Transparency, Monday night, episode 2, Moscow murders. Thank you guys for being here. Please be kind in chat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to help out these areas. It was a 25-mile drive to the first stop, and so on and so forth. So all of these listed here cities, based on that path, I gave a time frame of when you should be checking the cameras of a good place to start. And it's based on mile markers and exits off Highway I-95. So I went ahead and I listed every single city and what mile marker it would have been and how many miles he started. He had 297 miles to make it to his destination if your person of interest is John Jack, and if he did flee to go to his parents' residence. Now, there is rumors that he went to a cabin that his parents had. I can't find that in my investigation, but what I could find is this, and it's at least a starting point. Because he would have had to stop to get gas. I do believe that unless he had a full tank of gas and his vehicle could make it the 297 miles. Believe it or not, Moscow is really close to the Washington border, and here they would have started out at 1122 King Road. Because he would have had to stop to get gas. I do believe that unless he had a full tank of gas and his vehicle could make it the 297 miles. Take a look, guys. The way that I said that you'd go for Jack Showalter, take a look at what you see right here. Believe it or not, Moscow Blaine was really close to the Washington border, and here they would have started out at 1122 Genesis King Road. Oh, daddy! You're making it out of all right, again, guys, welcome to the Moscow area. what I did is I took my cursor and I drug it along and was able to get the mile markers like that.
It's go time.
Coming across all these cities and towns, they were appropriately marked with the mile marker and how many miles would have been traveled. What is web sleuthing? Well, it's an individual who uses the internet to search for information about a person or an event, basically acting as a detective while trying to solve a crime. Victimology is part of the profile.
Yeah.
So, yeah, knowing all the victims, and that's kind of, I think, why you go social media. You just scour their social medias to find out everything you can about them. And then their families, their parents, where they work, what they do,
Yeah.
who they're friends with.
Yes.
Okay, so we have one house, 6 beds, 3 baths. Anything else that we're missing to talk about the 2 entry? I mean, is that you got 2 entry points with the doors? Obviously, you have the bunch of windows.
Yeah, and then there's questions that, like, I would be making note of. Like, I would want to know at that point, were they locked? Were the doors usually locked? What kind of locks? You're going to want to know all that stuff. Were there any windows that were open? Are they all closed? Are the windows ever locked? Were the lights on in the house? Were the lights off? How well lit is the yard? So all that kind of stuff is going to tell you about the offender.
Okay.
Because you're going to be looking at what kind of a person does this. Because when you profile, you don't profile the person, you profile the type. We don't ever say this is your person.
Exactly.
We say this is the type of person. It's your job, cops, to figure out who that is. I just tell you the general, this is the type of person you're looking for. But everything that you have down, yes, so far that's what part of what you would be looking at.
So, like, I'd call you up and I'd say, we're just going to say that your name's Sue. So, hey, Sue, I got a crime here, and I want to know could you help me out? Would you be happy to profile this for me? What information would you need me to give you? It's limited right now. The cops are being very, very tight-lipped, but what would you need in order for you to, like, profile this?
Yeah, and I would tell you I would need to know how many victims, gender of victims, location of the crime, weapon, if we know what that was, injuries that were sustained, a description of the location.
Okay.
That kind of, you would at least want that kind of stuff.
Okay. And so, with it being limited, and I just knew, hey, okay, you got 3 females, 1 male. They're all between, the ages of 20 and 21. They all live together, except the male was in a relationship with one of the victims. So that's why he was there. The victims were found on 2 separate floors, 2 victims on floor 3 and 2 victims on floor 2, like the main floor.
I would also want to know at that point, how often was he there? Was he there a lot? Because that also makes a difference. Or was it rare that he was there?
Okay, well, based off of my web sleuthing, he actually had his own parking spot there. He had a red Jeep that had a parking spot that was, right there off to the side.
So basically, he may as well have lived there.
Yeah, I'm guessing that he was there a lot.
Okay.
And let's see. There was 2 actually survivors, so they were on the bottom floor. They said that they were sleeping allegedly in their rooms and didn't hear anything. And yeah, at this point, the cops are very tight-lipped with stuff. They said that the time of crime happened between 3 and 4 a.m. Now, I will tell you this, that they were getting back. So 2 of the roommates came back together, the boyfriend and girlfriend, allegedly at 1:45 a.m. And the other 2 girls, they were coming back from being out at the bars. And there was a Grubhub, video of them. So they got back at like 1:56 a.m. And the boy and the girl were coming back from a Sigma Chi party at 1:45 a.m. And the 2 survivors were back at 1 a.m. But they weren't together that night. They were out and about differently. But that's kind of just letting you know
How did everybody get back? Did they walk? Did they drive? Did they?
The girls that were coming back from the bar, they had an Uber type of, like a private driver. And it's unclear on how the boy and the girl got back as far as back from the Sigma Chi. So
the other is the survivors.
The 2 survivors, that's unknown how they got back. Also, the one girl, actually both girls that were seen on the Grub Truck video, they were in good spirits. There was somebody that looked like that they could have been technically following them. The police have gone on the record, though, to clear that guy. With very, very little information, they did manage to give us that they don't believe that the hoodie guy is involved. But they're in good spirits. They're not fighting with anybody. And they're using their cell phones. So we do know that they have their cell phones with them. And one of the girls was said to have been calling her ex-boyfriend multiple times, 7 times. But the last time that she called him was at 2:52 a.m. So she got back.
Does anybody know if that was typical?
Yeah, the family has said a little bit about that. That's normal, and that the family is like behind the boyfriend 100%. That he didn't have anything to do with this, and that they didn't have anything to. He didn't have anything to do with this, and I tend to believe that.
Yeah, don't even get me started about that whole thing.
So, so you would take all of that there. So yeah, well, based off of like everything that we just discussed going up until 11/20/2022, how would you profile this? What are we looking at? What's important?
The two biggest things that I can tell you out of that bit of information is that number one, it's targeted, and I say it more than likely. And I say that because you not only have one survivor, you have 2, which is more indicative of a plan than somebody just got lucky and went and hid, in the bathtub or hid under the bed. They were purposely left because you're not going to have multiple survivors without a reason.
Versus them, do you mean versus them escaping being, possibly a victim? Is that like a... Like, you don't believe that either one of these girls escaped them somehow to not be a victim, right?
I mean, at that point, I would have to say, unless they told me they were found in the house. Well, they did, though, because they said that they slept through it.
Yeah, they were found in the house. They were the ones...
So then, yes, I would still say that it's targeted.
Okay.
I would say, like I said, you don't ever, as a good, reputable profiler, you never say, yes, I know this 100%.
Uh-huh.
No, you don't. So, but I would say it's more than likely at that point. I would say that it's targeted and it's personal to some degree. That doesn't mean there's a personal relationship between the offender and the victim. That means that in the offender's mind, it's personal for whatever his reason is or her reason is. I would also say at that point that it could be a female or it could be a male. There's nothing that indicates it's one or the other.
So you would, at that point, you would not be telling me, hey, cross off all the females. There's no way that a woman did this. You would.
No.
Determine the cause and manner of death as homicide by stabbing, and determine that it was likely all 4 victims were asleep during the attack. Some of the victims had defensive wounds, and each victim was stabbed multiple times. There was no sign of sexual assault.
There was no sexual assault, they said.
Okay. Then if they said that, then yeah, then I double back down on the fact that I don't know if it's a girl or a boy. Could be either one. There's nothing in that amount of information that says that it has to be a male. Statistically, just the crime itself, yes, there are more males that commit it than females, but that doesn't mean anything.
Okay. And then it was said that they were allegedly, sleeping. That came out, but they could have been sleeping when they were attacked. Very little defensive wounds for some of them, maybe a little bit of defensive wounds for somebody else. Would that matter in your profile?
Yeah, I would say that not everybody is sleeping. It depends on the type of defensive wound. There are two different kinds of defensive wounds. You get defensive wounds if somebody were sleeping, and let's say somebody starts stabbing them so they wake up, but they're in bed. The extent of the defensive wounds that you're going to get the majority of the time are cuts to the palm of the hand and cuts to the inside of the wrist, because their hands are up in front of their face, in front of their body. Also, typically, if you're going to be stabbed in bed, you're confined. You can't move anywhere. So you can't flail your arms around, typically. You tend to just hover them in front of your body. That is sort of the evolutionary way of protecting yourself. So I'd say, so you would be looking, if these people were asleep, you would be looking at just the basic, put my hands up in an effort to protect myself. If somebody's awake and they're actively fighting, not just putting their hands up, but actively fighting, you're going to see cuts on their fingers. You're going to see other injuries to their forearms, to the backs of their hands, to the palms of their hands. But you're going to see more injuries than you would if they're sleeping. So the fact, though, that there are any tells me that, no, they didn't sleep through it. Then you would have no defensive injuries on anybody.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And when they said this crime happened between 3 and 4 a.m., but the 911 call didn't come in until 11:56 a.m., would that have anything to do with your profile?
In terms of determining time of death? Or just my profile as to...
Yeah, just in general, would it matter, if you heard from me to say, hey, just so you know, this is the time, 11:56 a.m. is when this...
No, because that doesn't have anything to do with the offender's behavior. So no, that wouldn't factor into the profile.
Okay, and at this...
It would be information that I included as a summary of the case, but it wouldn't be anything that influenced.
Okay, and would you... Do you think is this just one person? Is it multiple people? Would that be still open for interpretation, or?
If they're saying anything about it being the same weapon, then I would say that's a pretty much than a guarantee that it's one person. But I'd go ahead and say it's more than likely one person because of the type of crime. You typically don't get stabbings because they are personal in nature. You typically don't get duos and stabbings. It happens. I mean, there's the Manson family, and you do have situations where it happens.
And the movie Scream?
Yeah, but this is going to be, you would just have one. You have one offender. You're not going to have two offenders doing this. It's possible, but like I said, if it's the same weapon, then no. And it would be unusual anyway.
So two army guys that had the same Rambo style knife.
Highly unlikely.
And that
Possible,
would
yes.
And that would come out
no.
that would come out soon though, blood transfer and stuff like that with you're gonna.
Plus, it's the style of wounding people. Even if you can take two people and tell them to stab their victims, and the wounds are still going to look different because they're still going to stab differently.
Okay.
So you'll be able to tell by that as well that there's more than one offender. You'll be able to tell by the way the bodies are handled. If there are more than two, if there's more than one offender.
Okay. So that's gonna. I mean, how significant is your ME play into that?
Determining how many offenders?
Yeah, do they help in anything with that? Would you want to see an ME report?
Yeah, I mean, sure, yes, absolutely, because they're going to tell you, the ME is the one who is officially going to tell you if these wounds all came from the same weapon, because you can look at wounds and they look the same. Stabbing wounds, if similar knives are used, you can have two different knives that just at first glance, the wounds look similar. It's when you really get in there and you look at the damage that's done to the inside of the tissue that tells you whether or not the weapons are the same. So the ME being able to say, yes, this was the same weapon, that's a really big deal.
Okay. So, but right now, all we have is what we have, and this was after the 11/20/22 presser.
And I would say it's one offender.
One offender.
Just based on that, yeah.
Okay.
It would be really unlikely for it to be two in such a personal type of crime.
Okay. And anything else I should note here about would you be saying that we're looking for would you ever say like an age range at this point or anything like that?
Given the ages of the victims, I would say between 25 and 35, because as you go up in victim age, you go down in offender age. And as you go down in victim age, you go up in offender age. So because they are kind of right at that sort of starting place for us for profiling, I would stick with 25 to 35.
Okay.
This guy has knowledge with a knife. He's familiar with a knife. Nobody is going to walk into a situation with multiple victims and not feel confident in what they're doing.
So now that we kind of got the idea of how, it works with, okay, hey, we need a profile here. Before we just start going ham over everything to do with social media, who can we kind of eliminate? And I made it an early on decision that I did not believe this was a boyfriend of somebody. Why would a boyfriend of somebody kill one dude and three girls? That just made no sense. And it was basically reassured through Sumia here. And so Jack D, go check all my stuff. Jack D, I never did any videos on Jack D. I never thought Jack D was... I sleuthed him. Okay? He was a tennis player, phenomenon. Basically looked like he was a lost puppy unless Kaylee was around. Very talented, tennis player. Obviously went to the same college, high school sweethearts there at the end, dated there in college. So they shared a dog together. Everybody was like, oh, but the dog's alive. Maybe he left the dog. He didn't kill the dog because it's his. Yeah, I mean, that all looks good on paper, I guess. But reality of the situation is the profile isn't going to be a boyfriend. It's going to be somebody that wants what they have or a possible setup.
Hard to accept. She was a beautiful girl. She started junior high with Maddie, as you all knew, and our family became six very quickly. There was a lot of friends throughout this family that came and gone and went and whatever, and we're still friends, but we don't see them that much. There was Maddie. Maddie and Kaylee were by each other's sides every day. They went to other countries together. Karen took them to Hawaii together. We took them to Mexico together. They went to college together. They went to high school together. They lived in their own apartment together. They were sisters. She was one of ours. And we're just heartbroken, and we know it. It's
thought he was kind of losing his mind because it was happened like 4 or 5 different times. And Kaylee would just sit on the couch with a big grin on her face and just watch what my dad would do and how upset he would get. And I believe that's around the time that my dad named her K-Bug.
Bug us.
Because she bugs everyone. And it stuck because it was appropriate. She wasn't perfect. She was our little girl. She was ornery, and we loved her for that. You know, it was okay that was her signature, and nobody tried to change her.
Another thing.
Okay.
Similar to the battery story, back in the day when we had cordless phones, you know, 3 or 4 throughout your house.
Disaster that we're all working through together, you really have to just take care of each other. You got to reach out and hug the people, make yourself uncomfortable, and just be part of the healing and take advantage of every opportunity that you can tell your child that you love them, and don't let them walk out that door without giving them a hug. Even if they're annoyed and they don't want you and you're embarrassing, just say, I'll hug you longer if you just don't get this over with. So if that's, it's going to take that. This community is going to help us. We all know that we can't do it alone. And I thank you guys all for here and starting that process right here in our own.
I just read a letter where Maddie wrote to Kaylee talking about their friendship, and you know, it was powerful. And you know, they were beyond sisters, you know, because sisters are, you kind of forced to get along. These two didn't, you know, they weren't forced. They were just like yin and yang. And
Kaylee, Maddie, and one of their roommates, Xana Kernodle, were stabbed to death in their house near U of I on the morning of November 13th. Xana's boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, was also killed.
I'm here for my daughter and Maddie, but there's 2 other people that are just as important, and their kids went through just as much, and their losses are just as real. Like I was going to be required to come out and make sure that the story didn't die, and we built some momentum, and we got everyone involved that we possibly.
As Jack D was crossed off the list, this episode comes to a close. Please remember the ones that you love, your family, your kids, your parents, your siblings, and I will be doing the same. Check it out. While I am web sleuthing,
Good man.
Did he make us?
Yes.
Did he chose us to be made?
Yeah.
How do you know about God?
YouTube shorts.
YouTube shorts?
Yeah.
Everything's on YouTube shorts?
Yeah.
I learned about God on YouTube shorts. You believe in God?
Yeah.
You being a good boy?
Yeah.
Okay. I love you, Jax.
All right, guys, until next time, next Sunday, 6 p.m. on Sundays, 9 p.m. on Mondays. Episode 3 next Sunday. All right, guys, take care.